sitting out here on the land that's been in the family since 1962. And so during that period of time, I remember back one day Henry Polander and Archie Nelson coming over and asking if I would consider being a voting delegate for all West Breeders. So we went in the house and had coffee because it was too cold to stand outside that winter day, and so that's where the whole process of my involvement with All West Select Tires started from. That would have been in the late 1970s.
Hi, I'm Mark Van Mersbergen, Marv's son. I too was a voting delegate at first with All West, probably in the early 90s. As I recall, about the last year that my dad was on the executive board and a director was I think the next year is when I was then taken on as a voting delegate. Spent a number of years there, and the last few years on the executive board, and am president of All West presently. Dad bought the farm in '62. I've lived here basically my whole life, and I was six,
7
years.
Just turned, no, 6. We were in the first grade when I moved here.
Yeah.
Moved here in '63. It took a year. It was a potato farm when I bought it, not a blade of grass or a fence post on the farm.
So Dad and my Uncle Louie, Dad's older brother, had Willow West Farm, and then Grandpa. They remodeled those barns, put in a side opener parlor, of which, it was the second parlor in the county.
One of the very early ones.
Yeah. And the neighbors thought that he was crazy. He said,
they never get those cows to go up those steps.
No, that'll never work, because everybody else's cows were in a stanchion. But yeah, that was them guys that worked all winter. I was just a popular kid.
Yeah, it really took a year to get everything switched around, because I was also farming another farm at the same time, and so I was skinny by the time that year was over.
I had to pick strawberries to farm kitty corner, and I lasted a half a day. And at lunchtime, the owner of the berry field came over and found Dad and said, "This kid, the berries he didn't throw, he ate, or the ones he didn't eat, he threw." He says he would be much better off if you kept him home, let him rake hay and clean calf bins. So I spent a half a day in the strawberry field. I had to help my mom when I was a little tyke picking raspberries. Hated raspberries. I had to pick the low ones, and she picked the high ones. And pretty soon she retired, and I ended up having to pick berries all by myself, me and the cousins and stuff, and hated it worse. So I find it quite ironic that at this point we have 90 acres of raspberries, and so I farm raspberries even though I always hated them. Having been a voting delegate for a long time, and the advantages is could go to the annual meeting every year. You would be brought up to speed as to the governance of the co-op and the yearly finances of the co-op. Another thing that was always I treasured a lot was meeting and revisiting the same people. Just such a great group of people that you got to compare notes with, how you were doing things at home and how they were doing things at home. I think it's always good to share ideas. As we watched the bull population grow, the bulls at Select have dominated for a number of years. There's always been such great genetics available to our customers. That, I believe, is first and foremost, but as time has marched on, I see our people, our services, our programs are what are presently setting us apart from the other AI companies. I believe another thing is as we move along, we are entertaining diversity. Want to stay inside the agriculture industry, obviously, but if there's other ways that we can invest in the future, which will help our members, we as a board certainly are actively entertaining those ideas.
And Chichester would admit to this, I've asked, that Old West was pretty good size at that time, almost 20% of, or would be 20% of select sire business. And they needed us as bad as we needed them. But he played the better hand, Chichester played the better hand, and we joined without any question. Being a voting delegate, we didn't make any of the major decisions unless it had something to do with the total overall membership. So that was the time when Old West was moving along but not financially strong, and so there was decisions to consider joining with select sires in Ohio. So Manager Nelson, myself, Leonard Frame from California, and Gary Dagnan from Montesano, Washington, flew back to meet with the Select Sire Board, and they were much smaller at that point too, and looked around at the facilities, and after having been there and seeing what they were doing and the people involved, it became quite obvious that we on the West Coast needed to be part of that kind of a movement. So later on, that was in 75, I think, and later that year, then our manager and Cliff Bailey, president, and their manager, Chet Chichester, got together and put a package together for the voting delegates to vote on. There was not a movement by the board. The voting delegates had to say yay or nay to that movement. And as time will attest, that was one of the better things that ever happened at All West. As a youngster growing up, we had about 600 dairies. A lot of them were in that 25 to maybe 75, 80 cow range. And so there was a lot of cows that needed to be bred. AI was coming in, not really doing the job that they felt needed to be done to help dairymen succeed. And so it was a progress of being involved in a movement that eventually took over the world, the AI industry, going from fresh semen to ampules and now to straws. So we've seen a number of changes, and just happy to have been an opportunity to be a part of it. The bulls were housed in Burlington, Washington, where the main office was. Local facilities were started back in 1941 when that's when Skagit Valley had their first organized meeting for as a bull stud, and so there was old barns and 2x10s and all of that stuff. And when we got to Select Sires, everything was steel and concrete and nice buildings and people with suits and ties, and so they impressed this young kid from the West Coast that they knew what they were doing. And from all the dairy breeds, I would guess maybe 75 bulls were housed there at the time. There was a breed selection committee for each breed, Holstein, Guernsey, and Jersey. Beef business in my earlier years had not made an insight yet into AI that was significant. When Harold Catlin came in, that's when All West started to get involved in beef AI. One member that was not a voting member, but he sat in on our board meetings, and he had the designation of being Beef Advisory Committee. And we certainly needed all the advice we could get, because as dairymen we really didn't know what was going on. But Jess was much more than just a beef man. He had been a successful dairyman, and he was a wise gentleman, and his counsel to the board was always asked for and given, and then we could decide what we wanted. But one of his more famous statements which I've remembered for the last 50 years, 40 years, is that, Marv, for folks, you need to remember that the person you're having a disagreement with may not be the one that's wrong. And
I don't remember you thinking that way when it was you and me.
the other thing that I always felt I got the best end of the deal, when I was going to board meetings, Mark had to stay home and do chores alone. And when he became a board member and on into presidency, then there was hired people to do it. So I'm still ahead of the game. So
Yeah, you're right. That's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
and he can say that after having done the chores when I was gone. So.
Yeah, that too. I've learned so much from this guy. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he has always been more than willing to share his knowledge, his everything. And I guess it's really an honor to have been elected to follow in his footsteps, to be, I guess we are the first father-son combination president in the history of All West, and I couldn't be prouder to be his son, to follow in his footsteps, and to represent this company. Family matters.
That's what got the breed to where it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's still showing up today. You read in the ads, even if it's a genomic bull, the ad will say it goes back to this cow family, it goes back to that cow family, and we can't forget that. We can't forget the heritage we come from, or animals likewise.
I think you look at some of the higher ranking genomic young sire, the blood was lined up properly years ago. And I think Sire Stack has developed and even helped these young genomic bulls, I believe in part, are as high ranking as they are because of the way they were bred in the past. And so true, we are comparing them by a DNA, by their makeup, but that makeup still comes from where we were. And so it's cow families will always be important, bloodlines will always be important, and whether you want to take the time to figure those bloodlines out for yourself, or you have a company like All West / Select Sires that takes care of that for you, I believe in either case it's very important that those genetic lines are still properly put in the right order.
We ever did buy 2 excellent cows. All the other ones were either bred or managed to become excellent cows. So.
I think that Rhonda and I were fortunate. I received the Master Breeder Award for the state last year for Washington. And the reason I bring that up was they did a little bit of investigation and stuff, and I believe that there are 180 some homebred excellent cows in the United States. That was as far as they went. They didn't even go into Canada. So, and that doesn't add the cows that came as very good and we developed along the way.
Yeah.
So we were really blessed. Good cows and facilities to take care of them and
Some hard work and
yeah.
because there's a number of people that work just as hard or harder than we were working, but didn't have the success. So we are thankful for that. And I'm sure the good Lord was on our side. We started out with 3 cows. There was the bootmaker that graciously stepped aside and let me buy, but she was about $6,000, and that was a lot of money for some Guernsey guy back then. And then Emily came, and then about she wasn't excellent at the time, an elevation daughter from Polanders. And she only had 1 daughter. Well, we didn't know that at the time, and we sold it to Japan. The Japanese came by and wanted the daughter of that cow, so we sold it. So that was the end of that cow family. And the bootmaker did leave us some cattle, but that family seemed to have more bulls and heifers, and pretty soon they just disappeared.
Raven is, I think there's offspring in 28 countries. And the last time someone took the time or had access and could figure it out, there was about 600 classified female offspring, of which I think it was 200 excellent. Well, it was 300 and some very goods, and I think of the 600 and some, there was 2 that were good. There was only 2 that scored underneath 80 points out of 600 and some. And what was it, 90-some percent?
Yeah, 95% are excellent or very good.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
It's very, it's enjoyable. It's just so rewarding to read 20 years later. You know, guys are still talking about Raven and her impact. Been told a few times she maybe was a cow a little ahead of her time. It appears now that her offspring, probably one of their strengths were type components and health traits, and so she maybe was putting things into the DNA of cattle at an earlier stage and we didn't even really know what all we were ranking at that point.
See, there's a difference in cattle breeding. If so many people breed for opposites. If you got high, you breed for low, for set, and all that stuff. Our theory has been, if you got a problem, you breed to the correct. So you may not get what you want, but at least you've got 50% correct. Then the next generation, if she's still got a problem, you breed to correct. So pretty soon you got more corrects than you got the ups and the downs. And that's where your cow families come from.
Yep. Yeah, I think to further, you don't take a high-pinned cow and breed her to a slopey rumped bull, because half of them will be high-pinned and half will be slopey. You breed her to the flat rumped bull, because then, like Dad says, you might still have some high pins, but you'll have some level pins. And a couple generations down the road, you've got rid of it. That's a corrective mating. Just opposite doesn't necessarily.
It has worked, but it's really not a good philosophy to follow, and too many people do it. But that's because they haven't taken the time to learn, I guess. Well, we had registered Guernseys until about 1980, in that range, and then made a gradual move over to registered Holsteins. And so back in the days of Dairy Most, he'd have been a great bull at any breed with the job that he carried out at a time when we really needed a new bull. And like I said at lunch, as a Guernsey breeder, I'd walk to the barn and admire Carnation Royal He-Man, a little knowing that eventually he'd wind up being the grandfather of Rockalley Morris-Emily, which went on to help Mark well on the map. So.
Yeah, tell him, Pops, about the I won't call it an argument, but
it's-
about the Mars-Tony daughters between Emily and, what was her name?
Well, I think it was Eric Du.
Marcy,
Marcy, I think,
yeah, I
yes.
think Marcy.
Oh, it started way early on when Emily became somewhat known here as a good producer, attractive, excellent cow, and just had a lot of pizzazz about her. And so you need to have something to discuss, after hours.
Okay.
That was the highlight of our meetings.
Yeah, which Mars-Tony daughter was the best? And the guys from the West would vote for Emily, and the guys from the Midwest thought that, and the East Coast thought that Marcy was. And having worked with Emily for 19 years, I think she gets our vote.
Yes, and apparently it's still going on. You continue the story.
It surfaced just in March again. We were at the banquet at the annual meeting, and Tim Ryan of Tennessee fame, he brought that up. We happened to be sitting at dinner at the same table, and before you know it, the conversation and discussion about the two Mars-Tony daughters surfaced again. So it's pretty interesting how cow people and with cow knowledge and how those things just keep surfacing, and I guess you could even say friendships. Those cow stories have kept friendships alive and well for many, many years.
It was something that some people aspired to, some people were just happy to be of service to the organization. I don't know of anyone that wanted to be a board member so that they could sell a bowl to AI. They were there to improve what was already laid out and just be a part of a successful organization. In the early beginnings, we were there to grow and just try to succeed. And since that has happened, the new people have gone forward in a very remarkable way of new products and new investments to return money to the ownership.
Yeah, I would concur. I believe that the group of guys that sit around that board table in the boardroom, I'm sure you would agree, Pops, when you were there too. What a great group of guys to do business with. They come from different walks. There's large commercial, there's small registered, there's different ideas, but we agree to disagree. Great discussion, but never in my years of being involved have we not left that room with a united decision that we all support what the majority rules for. But boy, what a great group of guys. I've said it before in speeches as well, that just such an honor and a privilege to get to work with guys of this caliber and quality.
Yeah, I can remember Bill Janassi and I can't remember the name of the movie, but we sat down there in someplace in Columbus, Ohio, and it was the movie where, and one of you guys will know the name of it, where the priest went to Australia. The Thornbirds, yes, and it was very entertaining and even a bit of a tearjerker. I don't think we sat and cried, but it was one of those movies that had some real sentiment to it. So I remember Bill and I doing that one evening. From day one, and that was one of my strong points when I was on the board and chairperson, was to take care of our employees. You cannot be losing good employees to the competition because you're not rewarding them properly for their work. And so that's very true. We have excellent employees like Ken Hake. I've only got a handful of cows left, but he'll be over tomorrow with the new bull proofs. So, just to show me where the organization is at, where it's come, and where it might be going. So it's those kind of people that make All West Select Sires prominent in the industry.
because of our people, the expertise in the industry, the honest, hardworking, dedicated staff at both Select and at All West. They work hard every day to provide the members with the best quality product possible. And that goes semen quality, that goes the genetic component of the bulls that you're buying, combined with the services, the programs, be it the new cow manager that's being provided, be it a few, you have SMS, you have Health Pro, you have a number of arenas that our dedicated people work hard every day to provide a top quality service and product to you as members. They bleed red, so to speak, as far as Select sires. They are dedicated from the guy that's out cleaning the bull barn to the guy that's out selecting bulls all the way to the top to Dave Thorbon as CEO of the whole company. And All West is just a very integral part of Select, and it has just turned into a wonderful marriage, if you will, between these two companies. And I think my generation anyway, need to thank the generation before us for the foresight, the intelligence. They gave a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of thought as to setting the road for us to follow. And so I think the next time you see an older gentleman that was part of All West in the past, you need to thank him, because what they have done, we are reaping the benefits of today.